3.
Hello, TJ here. In English. I'm the vendor chair of IHE the Netherlands, and we have the privilege to have an interview with Charles Parizeau. Hi, Charles.
Hi, T.
Hi. Okay. We have some questions from the Netherlands for you about the XDM and XDS situation in the Netherlands. And because IHE designed profiles for sharing documents and images, and among them XDS and XDM. XDS about publishing and query retrieve model, and XDM about the push model. Could you provide us some perspectives on the strengths, weaknesses of each profile and where they fit best? And what's now happening in the Netherlands? What would be consequences to deploy them both side by side?
Thank you, T. That's a lot of questions. Let me answer those questions from the point of view of the chair that I used to be of the IT infrastructure committee at the time where those profiles were developed. First and foremost, it is critical to understand that those two profiles have been designed together. XDS was designed first, XDM was designed next. And the intent was very clearly to allow a point-to-point push in XDM to feed an XDS sharing and pull environment. So combining the two is, if you implement them as they are specified, is possible on the technical side. However, we need to speak of the policy and organizational side, where they greatly differ. Let me remind quickly the strength of push. With the push, you know the destination, and you will share the data between you and the destination. No one else will know about it. Therefore, the privacy is a smaller problem. The big issue is, how do I find the right target? Because sending data to one place, if it's the wrong place, you now have created a privacy gap. So the simplification in policy is important to understand, in that managing a directory of targets is an absolutely critical element in the push, and a lot of discipline by the sender in selecting their targets is a requirement. And those two are not easy to do. The strength of the sharing and pooling is that it's quite simple for the source. They apply one kind of policy, they share, they make sure they have the right to share, that the patient is giving the necessary consent to share, and that's it. For the sources, it's much simpler. The problem is on the pool side, where on the pool, you need to check who is asking for the data and is the who allowed per the sharing policy and per the consent. So there is that consent on the pool side that has to be established. One critical benefit here is that the one who shares doesn't need to worry about who is going to need the information. The one who gets the information is the one who needs the information. Therefore, you have created a fundamental sharing paradigm, which in healthcare is critical because of a lot of organizational factors. Knowing a priori where the patient will go next is not always easy. You may plan it, but it may never happen the way you planned it. Therefore, the push and pull is much more flexible in terms of workflow and make the consumers of the information happier. Let's remember that the big issue in the push is not the pushing, yes, to the right destination, but it's the receiving. What do you do when you receive the data? Do you send it to an individual, to an organization? Where does the data go once it has been pushed? So there is an interesting management side on the receiving system, which is not an easy task. So in a sense, we are discovering that the policy issue around the push only and the push and pull are the one that makes the difference, although they can be technically connected. Therefore, the fundamental argument is if you deploy both is a question of scaling. The push-pull sharing can scale to large environments. The push cannot scale to large environments. Why? Because you have a complex directory problem to manage and to keep current with all of the changes in all of the targets, and the receiver will rapidly suffer from the fax syndrome, which is paper falls on the floor and somebody has to sort the paper on the floor. When you're on the receiving of a push, it falls where? Somebody has to decide what to do and where to put that data. So you end up having a lot of manual on the receiving side work to do in many cases. So when you scale, you discover that push only has a hard time scaling to large environment. It's nice into smaller environment of sources and destination, but there is a challenge. Last but not least, the metadata that is in the push is equally important as the metadata which is in the sharing that you put in the registry. If you want the two to interconnect, the two have to use the very same metadata. So if you push today with one kind of metadata and you intend to share tomorrow with another kind of metadata, you are in deep trouble because you will have to do metadata conversion. So in order for XDS and XDM to coexist, think of scaling as one issue, think of metadata harmonization on the other side. This would be my quick analysis.
Okay. It's an interesting. Louis.
Hi, Charles. I've got a question for you on XDM and XDS. Do you have experiences where a document on an XDS network can be sent or retrieved by a recipient who only has an XDM gateway? What's your experience and opinion in that?
So on the sending side, I answered this in the previous question. You can copy your email, push it to a gateway that feeds the XDS, as long as consent is managed properly. On the receiving side, that is natively not possible. In order to do that, you need to use a feature in XDS, which actually creates point-to-point engagement, which is using the intended recipient and the subscription notification. I forgot the name of the profile. But you can use an intended recipient in your publish in XDS, and the registry can have a notifier that takes this intended recipient and send a notification to the document consumer, so that the document consumer knows that he has a document for a specific patient to call for, and he can pull the document out of the XDS environment. If you've enabled that feature in your XDS environment, then you can have a gateway that receives the notification. And a gateway that having the notification goes into the XDS, pulls, retrieves the documents, reads in the metadata the intended recipient, and forwards via XDM an XDM message to that intended recipient. My 2 cents, if doing it this way is really trying to, is not that useful, because you are receiving point-to-point documents is already a pain. Let's remember that people very often do not analyze the consequence of this until it is deployed. But receiving point-to-point things is complex in an incoming organization, It's like receiving faxes today. And then turning what could be a pull model into a forced push into your organization is actually not seen as a progress by many people. So that case is technically possible, as I described, but I don't think anyone has implemented to my knowledge.